Quiet is rare in the city. Even early, before the city wakes up, the noise is hard to escape.
The school staff and Bible teachers are facing it all.
Are my children safe? Am I working hard enough? Am I a good parent? Are we going to be okay? The secret is to find control, even if it's only your own breath. The East Bronx is wedged between the city and the river, so we're always one big storm away from a devastating flood. Both Albany and City Hall fight for contracts that control our parks, neighborhoods, and schools. The mayor's office has controlled the schools since Bloomberg. Now they're proposing 6-day school weeks, longer hours, bigger class sizes, more standardized testing, and fewer choices. The law for mayoral control expires this year. I'm Jonathan Soto, and I'm going to Albany to bring our schools back to us, the people who know our kids the best. I grew up in New York and in El Pueblo de Aguada, a small town on the west coast of Puerto Rico. My parents were ministers, inspired by Jesus the carpenter, Jesus the worker. So when I returned to New York, I organized with people of faith to help workers and the vulnerable. I was appointed by the mayor to represent the voice of the faithful at City Hall. And so I know our government can be guided by love and led by people who love their neighborhoods, neighbors, and their children, not by some politician who just shows up during election time. That's why community control is so important right now. We lost so much during the pandemic. People are anxious, the city is noisier, and the questions are louder. But we can still breathe, pray, and organize. And if we don't organize ourselves, then others will do it for us. We need a clear plan and priorities made by us and for us before we lose anything else. I'm Jonathan Soto, and I'm running for state assembly to represent you, us, now.
Mic check, mic check.
1, 2.
Mic check, mic check.
1, 2.
You good?
Yeah, we good. I didn't know you muted both of them. We good. Let's go.
All right. Sorry about
Sorry,
that.
guys. We got to go do. We'll start that one over.
So you made the shot.
After the third shot, we went in. Yeah, and it's just telling a story about what's at issue in our communities. We're here right now, and we have a whole bunch of development and a whole bunch of buildings and a whole bunch of ferries that are coming that are benefiting very specific people that are not from this community. And it's a lot of real estate that, Donald Trump has right next to where we live. So my assembly member took $6,000 from Trump. I figured that out recently. And listen, I'm not an anti-Trumper person, but the thing is that if you're giving him $127 million in tax credits, but my daughter doesn't have adequate desks, she goes to Bronx Delta. I think y'all went to the same building, same school. Wow. So
it was IS 192.
Yeah. Princess says she gets text messages from him.
Hey, sorry to bother you. I got a lot of text messages. Yeah, we annoying the hell out of people.
That's good. Get out and vote.
That's it.
He's going. Yeah, he's out right now, shaking hands, kissing babies, doing all the good shit right now, right?
Yep. Have to do it. And that's tomorrow is election day. So sorry about all the texts. It's a lot. Right? Some people get like 20 texts a week, but
Damn.
Yeah, but the thing is that,
You gotta
voting
do it.
was very low because people don't trust politicians.
Mm-hmm. Can we start there then? Why don't people trust politicians?
Well, let's give him an introduction.
Oh, you got it. You're
yeah,
right. Yeah, that's right. Because we was talking before. That's why. We was.
Make sure you give
chopping
him an
it up.
introduction, show him some love. So, just want to make sure that you all know who we're speaking with. This is a very big deal, and this will be an historic episode for 40 Central. Like we always say, we don't just pod, we pod to make a difference. And part of what we do is making sure that we are bringing resources to our community, in addition to being a voice for the neighborhood. That's what we stand for. And the reason why this episode is so great is because we have somebody who's literally fighting for our community, and it's important that we introduce you to who this man is and what he does. And just as soon as he walked in the room, like the energy was like, all right, we here to work. Like this is not for play. Like he's not here doing the politician stuff just to be a politician. He's somebody who's actually 10 toes down in the neighborhoods, really, really advocating to make our neighborhoods better, our schools better, everything about the Bronx better, the state. I'm sorry, let me not just limit it to the Bronx, it's the state. And I want to make sure that you all understand who we're talking to here. Like this is a really, really big deal, and I'm super honored to have you on our platform.
Yes.
Thank you for coming, and thank you for taking the time to even share, because you don't have to be here. And again, like I said, 10 toes down, like he's here with us. This is not a virtual interview. We're not, this is not pre-recorded. This is live. He's here in the flesh, willing to talk with us and talk with you all. So make sure you call him with questions. And without further adu, I'm gonna just claim it. Assemblyman.
Hey.
Assemblyman Jonathan Soto, make some noise.
That means I really appreciate y'all sharing your platform. It means a lot. I'm Jonathan Soto, and one of my taglines is I'm running for whole communities and safe streets, because our safe streets can't be safe if we are not whole when it comes to our housing, to our mental health, when it comes to our economics, when it comes to our ability to make money, when it comes to a lot of the social conditions that we're seeing here. So, my background is in law and urban planning, but at the same time, I've seen a lot of crisis happen recently, whether it was in Puerto Rico, where my family's from, where I've been organizing against the privatization. There's a lot of gentrification happening in Puerto Rico. I started waking up to that catastrophe after Hurricane Maria. And when I saw the pandemic happening here, I work for Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC. And when I was with her, we were thinking about what we're going to do with all these volunteers that we have. And my daughter wasn't getting access to good schools. Remember when the pandemic shut and kids only had remote options and remote learning? It was tough. You have lots of school kids with special needs in the Bronx. The Bronx has one of the highest rates of students with special needs, yet the services are not matched. We also have huge issues of poverty there, and the public school systems are kind of pretty trash. And I'm running against Michael Benedetto. He's the chair of the education committee for the entire state. So seeing that he wasn't responding, we organized 1,000 volunteers, and we were able to provide free remote one-on-one homework help throughout the pandemic. We're still providing that free homework help. You know how hard it is to get a tutor? Sometimes it's like $100, $200 an hour. And a lot of our kids can't afford that extracurricular activities, So we provided that, and that showed me more and more that the education system was really flawed. I decided to make the run, and tomorrow's the election day. And that's what I'm saying, whole community, safe streets. And we're running on a platform that's really centered on what are the main challenges. But again, I'm telling people all the time, don't trust me. I'm not here to be trusted. I'm here to be made accountable, because far too often politicians come with this superhero, we're going to save the world, when in reality, it's the people's power that needs to be expressed. So I view this role not as like I'm the leader here, but this office is going to serve as a platform for the people to express themselves the same way you are using your platform, right, to express, as you mentioned, and bring resources to the community. I think we're coming in a time where leadership is expressing itself very differently in our communities and our societies. We're seeing leadership could be expressed not by one person, but by many people coming together in ways that are not owned, in ways that you have independent media. I'm running against a Democrat because Democrats have been trash. You know, Biden has been trash.
Oh,
You know,
we going
like
there.
we're going.
it's true though.
Listen,
Yeah,
you
talk
two,
about it, talk
do
about
not
it.
kick us off again, please.
Speaking
Speaking
truth,
truth, we will put it back up. Trust me.
That's
Go
the
ahead.
thing. So, you know, and I say that, listen, you can't swing at pinatas from far away. That's my like metaphor. If you have all the resources held by the top, people at the top, and then you have the 99 all with sticks fighting against each other, you know, that's going to be problematic situation. What we got to do is all the 99 people with their small sticks, yo, let's just chill. Let's put all our sticks together and let's coordinate and organize on how we take a swing at that pinata, at all those resources that are outside of hands. And that's the type of politics we need to bring. But people don't have trust. People are really doubtful. And I don't blame anybody. So it makes my job really hard, but we got to keep trying.
So let's just start from the beginning then. Like,
Right.
what made you want to get into politics?
Interestingly enough, my parents were ministers. They were evangelical. They were real churchy. My parents are from Puerto Rico and they were missionaries. And I really couldn't stand the control, the domination, the just really horrible parts of religion. However, there was something really redeemable when it came to the actual community that was there. And it's interesting because when I would read the Bible, I would like the Bibles with the red letters because I didn't agree with a lot of the other stuff of the Bible. But when I read the red letters of Jesus, I'm like, oh, okay, these letters actually make sense to me. You know, it makes sense that, you know, the love of money, not having money, but the love of money can be the root of evil, especially if we're driven by greed. It does make sense that those that have been left last in our society should be made first. It does make sense that, you know, I remember I was told I was going to hell all the time. That's the type of church we grew up in. You're gonna go to hell for existing. You know, you wake up and you go into hell. And what happens is that that's a form of what I call colonization. You know, they make you hate this life in order for you to be able to think about the next. And that's wild because then you can't have any joy in the present. And that's kind of like the hustle mentality and the grind mentality of our society, of specifically, you know, and I think, you know, people have lots of opinions about like capitalism. You know, I don't believe we live in a real capitalist society. We live in a society where the very few at the top control stuff and they throw you crumbs and they make it seem as if, you know, there's capital. There's no free market. And that's the thing. Like I started seeing like, no, we need to make sure that we do a couple of things. We have a politics and a society and an organizing that meets people's needs right now. You know, people are suffering right now. I mean, how many people saw their Con Edison bills go up by like 300% at the beginning of the year? You know why? Because Con Edison has a monopoly, right? They have a monopoly over our energy. You know who has a monopoly over our schools? The mayor has a monopoly over our schools. This whole society is a bunch of monopolies. You know, there's a bunch of price gouging that's happening right now with the baby formula, right? So the problem with politics is that there's a lot of money coming into the system and they buy out the politicians. And what the politicians do, they make laws that benefit the people that gave them money. And they keep the monopolies, they keep this control, and then they have everybody fighting for crumbs, you know, and then obviously you have all the social issues and people are really confused. I'm very clear. I want to break up all monopolies. You know, that's the type of politics, you know, we're bringing it back to like the FDR 1920 days, you know, where you had so much wealth created in our society, but so much of it just goes to the top. And everybody else gets screwed. So I'm interested in bringing up a politics that is going to make sure that it's not for the 1%, but for the 99. And you know, those are some of the things that I'm trying to say. But what do you think some of your folks are interested in? Your audience, what do they want to chat about?
It's a great question.
Kev, you here, man? Kevin Trigger's here actually, and actually the manual's on the way.
Okay.
So
this is gonna be a great conversation.
Yeah, this is gonna be an awesome conversation. Kev, Trig, send them your questions. Yeah, you got.
Let me hold on, let me get the calling thing ready.
Oh yeah. If anybody want to call in too, Kev said he agrees.
He agrees.
So I guess let's talk about like why do people in our community need to be involved in politics, right? Because politics is a really taboo subject in our communities because a lot of people lost hope. They feel like politicians come to our neighborhoods, they make all these promises, they take our vote, they don't do anything. Historically, we've seen that, right? We just seen it with the presidential election. We get them in the office, and we're seeing all these different laws and bills passed that aren't benefiting our community. So how can we change that mindset of people being involved in politics?
It's interesting that a lot of people focus in national elections, and that's what people have been accustomed to. And it's the expectation that national politics are going to affect your life, when in reality, it's local and what happens here, which is, I'm excited running for a local seat because it's the place that's closest to you. So, for example, if something's bothering you around your specific situation here, we're seeing a lot of rents are going up by like 30-50% in the pandemic. Lots of people are getting displaced. Gentrification is really hot, and one of the main reasons why is because your local elected official, the one I'm running against, Michael Benedetto, he takes $35,000 from big real estate developers. He took $11,000 from Donald Trump. Now, what he'll do is he'll come here and do a turkey giveaway. He'll come during Christmas time with some gifts. He throws some crumbs to people, and people are satisfied with that. Those that want access to him, but people who really see that their live and material conditions are not changing, they get disengaged. And because these people are really like throwing people crumbs, and it's not about what a person could do for you, it's what the community could do for itself, right? Like self-determination, having the ability to express yourself and have what I call community control. So one of the things we see with our school system is that the Department of Education has a $38 billion budget. It's huge. It's bigger than several states. Why is it that we're not doing programming for people from the community to become teachers, right? Pipeline them to those huge budget amounts. If you're going to do a big construction project, why not do local hire and train young people in trades to be able to make the $40 and $50 and $60 prevailing wage that these union like development jobs get? Why not, if you're going to do a lot of climate work, which right now is happening in the coasts, those are multi-million dollar projects. But you know who they give the money to? To people from Long Island, to workers from outside. You're not developing a local pipeline. And all those resources go to the donors of the politicians instead of the people that live here locally. Those are some of the things that people think about economics when it comes to why is it that it's important to pay attention locally. And, there's just a lot of things happening right now when it comes to just cost of living. Like, cost of living is out of control. But the thing is that my parents just retired. They worked in nursing homes. My dad was a chef for his 30 years. My mom is a housekeeper, for the last 25 years. They're retiring now, and their 401k is now getting hit, right? They lose their insurance because they don't have employee-based insurance. And now most of their paycheck has to go to pay for medication costs and prescription costs. I don't know how I'm going to take care of my parents. I got lots of debt when it comes to that. One of the things we could do, though, is pass what's called the New York Health Act, which provides universal health coverage and prescription coverage for aging parents. And that's something that I'm very concerned about. And that's something that we could do locally as well. Because I think the federal government is unfortunately is not, it ain't happening in the federal government. I don't think we're going to have a federal government for much longer. It's kind of scary what's happening. I mean, not to be alarmist. But
no, that's good because we need to have this conversation. But now, just to piggyback off the first question, I'm 19, 21 years old. In the projects. They're telling me to vote. I don't want to hear none of that. Like, how do we break through to that population? Because we could speak to the 30, 35-year-olds who are now like you're experiencing bills and other issues that you really feel the inflation.
Right.
But for a lot of the kids, it's like they may not really understand it. So how do we get through to that population of like 18 to say like 25?
I think a lot of people want to be able to see their potential and to be supported in their potential. And that could look like creating a small business. Like, for example, right now, we have a whole bunch of money going to legalization of marijuana, right? There's millions of dollars going to support businesses. Why isn't that we're like getting kids together, people that are interested in being entrepreneurs, and give them a slice of that pie? Why can't we seed somebody with $50,000 if you have an innovative idea for this booming industry, this very green industry that's coming out, both in terms of the marijuana and in terms of the money? Like, entrepreneurship for young people could be a really important thing, but you're not speaking in that language, because what they're doing is just giving the money to the huge, big, like marijuana, like MedMen, and like these huge corporations, instead of giving opportunities to young people. School debt is out of control. I got $70,000 worth of debt. Like,
wasn't it
school.
supposed to be erased?
There we go.
That was a promise, right?
That was
a promise.
Yeah, a broken promise. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, at the state level, we could fight, to provide free CUNY and to extend free CUNY to people. Those are one of the things that someone at that age. I'm also concerned right now, and we're seeing it with Mayor Adams. He wants to bring back stop and frisk. He wants to bring back this vice squad units. And we saw during Bloomberg how a lot of policing primarily impacted specifically Black and brown folk in this community and in our communities. And that stuff's coming back if we don't like push against what we could see. And I know a lot of people feel a lot of ways about crime, but what we always see is that when we have someone like Adams comes in and starts over criminalizing, you're gonna start getting some boys in blue like just throwing people up against the wall again. And we may go back to that when we see these situations like emerge and develop. So I think when it comes to jobs and entrepreneurship, super, super, super critically important. When it comes to free college and lowering debt, that's super important as well. But we're also seeing that we could get recriminalized with aggressive policing, which is something that I have and I've worked, to organize against stop and frisk, because stop and frisk was literally violating people's constitutional rights, the right from the Fourth Amendment right from search and seizure. So these are some things that we could say again, but people just have to see the results. And I don't expect anybody to be animated or be energized if they don't see us delivering. And it's a process. I can't make promises to anybody. I can't say that we're going to fix this for you. It has to be done together. And I think, that's something that we're doing with, I work with AOC. A lot of what we are doing together, I've learned from that experience, but we just have to deliver results because people don't trust anybody anymore.
We got a couple of people in here. Nick Rascana. I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong. You got a couple of other like people with Dr. Caroline Lewis Jacquees. They here for you, man.
Hey.
Jonathan's so clear. If we don't vote people like him in the office, we get politicians who think they're above the law. Kev wants to know, are you a progressive socialist Democrat or a moderate Democrat?
So I'm progressive socialist. I'm specifically a democratic Christian socialist. I know a lot of people react certain ways around that.
Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's someone, as mentioned, someone that I say that my politics are identifying that those that have been last and left last in society, we need to prioritize policies to take care of them. Which means that we're seeing that the rich, the 1%, are price gouging and they get all the profits, when like middle class and working class people, our energy bills are going up, our rents are going up. We're working and people are taking more and more taxes out of us. You know what's wild? capital gains tax, Wall Street.
Mhm.
You could make $1 billion and only get taxed like 10% capital gains. Yet you and us, we work and our income gets taxed 35%, which is wild, right?
Yeah,
You
that's
get
crazy.
past 35% because of you working, but capital gains, which is what Wall Street does, and they do these investments, they get only taxed 10%. So our tax system benefits the wealthy instead of benefiting working people. Now, no one takes on Wall Street because they're in their pockets. And I'm challenging Michael Benedetto, who took money from Trump. And again, I'm not trying to be like an anti-Trumper thing. People are tired of just being like, "Oh,
Mhm.
I'm not trying to say like, no. That's a distraction because Trump was a symptom that emerged. Now, some people be like, "Oh, well, socialists are out of control. They just want crime, and they want to give everybody free stuff, and working people are going to get left behind." There's a lot of different versions of socialism. For me, it's very clear. I believe in worker and union power. So I've been helping out and organizing folks who've been organizing at Amazon, right? Amazon has been really providing really bad conditions and working conditions for a lot of people. And now they're organizing for better conditions. Also, I believe that as a socialist, as a democratic socialist, my waterfront property, $127 million shouldn't go for Donald Trump. It should be open up for the community. We should have access to the ferry. Right now, we don't have access to the ferry.
Mhm.
That's right here.
Yeah.
Right? Right. And that is a function, and that's a process where the social benefits don't go to the people, but go to the top. Martin Luther King said it best. Martin Luther King, and as a person of faith, I really respect Dr. King. He said there is rugged capitalism for the poor and socialism for the rich. That's the way our society is structured. And Martin Luther King was very clear around the way we need to move forward on this. So I find my inspiration from Dr. King. And that's why I call myself that, because he called himself that. People don't know that he called himself a socialist.
Yep.
But that's the tradition that I come in from that. Yeah.
So what would you say to the critics who say we've seen socialist practices in Black and brown communities and it hasn't really been to our benefit? For example, the housing projects, public schooling, welfare. We've seen these things injected into the neighborhood, and now they're stuck there, like for generations. So how do we combat that?
Yeah, so I think there's really bad form and bad examples of what bad government has happened in socialist situations. And there's good examples that we have. And I always like to point to Co-op City, for example, because Co-op City is part of our district, right? The district are the neighborhoods of Co-op City, Throgs Neck, Pelham Bay, Country Club. Co-op City is the largest social housing development in the world. The largest social housing development in the world.
Yeah, they got
Over
I did not know that.
50,000 people live there, and people own their, have shares, and they're shareholders, right? So that is a form of socialism, where the government makes this massive investment, but they gave people some type of ownership of it as well. Now contrast that to NYCHA, right? Where we have NYCHA, but people don't have a stake of ownership, and we see how there's a big difference in the maintenance of the property. So there's two very specific versions. And my thing is that when we have capitalism that is corrupt, then we also see that there's the possibility of having socialist policies that are corrupt as well. Social Security is a socialist like idea. Roads and public highways, those are social ideas as well, right? These are things that are commonly owned that we could use. Now, I think that we need to have conversations, because labels, people are going to throw them around. And I don't try to lead with that. I'm answering the question honestly, but I don't lead with like, oh, I'm a socialist, because that scares people. And at the same time, I really am trying to focus on a couple of things. I'm trying to focus on people's human dignity, right? I'm trying to focus on economic justice, and I'm trying to make sure that we have accountability and fairness in our system. So those are some of the things that I've seen expressed. But I understand a lot of the anxiety people have around socialism, because they think about, people starving under communism. They think about Russia. They think a lot of those things. What I ask people is to think about Ecuador, for example. Ecuador is also a socialist country, and it's the most beautiful, the most resourced, the most naturally abundant society that's ever existed. And if you go there, you see how they don't even have an army. I'm not saying that, we got a lot of guns here, like in America, and that's another thing, like there's also this theory, it's called horseshoe theory, that says like sometimes socialism turns into fascism as well, and these are things that people are afraid of, for very good reason. However, these are debates that we have to have. So I appreciate that question, and I definitely always approach it in a way that we need to have more discussion about it, because I understand people's fears around socialism.
I want to take a step back.
Shout out to Ecuador, though. My people.
Shout out to Ecuador. I want to take a step back. What is an assemblyman?
Right.
And what power does that grant you?
So assembly member makes laws for the entire state. So for example, recently we saw the legalization of marijuana, for example, right? That is a bill that gets initiated in the assembly. Then there's the second body, the Senate. They vote for it, the governor signs it, and that's a function of the state legislator to make laws for the entire state. But at the same time, people vote based on what their representatives want most, or what their people want most. So also one of the things we do are hearings. So a hearing is when you see an elected official bring in somebody. For example, we have like the January 6th commission, that you see now everybody's doing hearings on, whatever happened last year. At the local level, I'm very interested in doing hearings, and hearings are a good way to hold people accountable, right? So I'm going to focus on public education because I'm a public school parent. And one of the things I want to do is I want to do hearings to see why is it that we have more cops in our schools than we have mental health counselors? Why is it that we're funding more security stuff instead of funding more mental health counselors and guidance counselors in our schools? So what I would do as an assembly member is that I would call a hearing. I would tell all the education people to come here, to explain yourselves. We get press and we raise awareness. And then what happens is that we then take the people's input and then we go and ask to do laws that address that issue. Another thing that assembly member does is hold agencies accountable. So
what do you mean by agencies?
So for example, the Department of Sanitation, right? When you don't see your garbage getting picked up for several times, and in this neighborhood, we see garbage and the streets, right, get done in certain parts of this neighborhood, let's say like Locust Point or Edgewater, very nicely paved like places, and the garbage always get picked up. But you come out here and you see that they'll strip the street for like 2 weeks, and everybody's wheels are getting fucked up, because the agencies don't care, because the representative cares more about the neighbors in Edgewater or Locust Point because they vote more as opposed to residents that live here. What I would prioritize is saying like, no, the data shows that there's a disparity. And I would do this during a hearing with the person from, there's the Department of Transportation, right? Let's say if the roads aren't getting paved, as an assembly member, I'll hold a hearing and I'll get the media and I'll call them out, or we'll do it with the Department of Sanitation as well on that specific issue. Local issues that people care about. So that's like the second thing. We legislate, make laws, we hold hearings to hold people accountable. And then third is that I believe we provide constituent services and we connect people and we do education, right? And that's what I'm really excited about, where I want people to understand that we could take back our waterfront property if we want to here. We could make sure that we have a youth center so that we have sports activities, that we have opportunities for young people to have access to the arts.
Meditation
Um,
centers.
Oh, mental health. Mental health is huge, by the way.
Mhm.
I think we need to decriminalize psychedelics. I think we need to
Hey.
engage in therapeutic
Hey.
practices.
Uh-huh.
We need to
I'm
really
with that
think
one.
about that. Absolutely. I'm really big on mental health, especially for veterans, especially for people in law enforcement. Like, so much of the trauma that's happened, and we see that like psychedelics and therapeutic practices is working really well. I'm definitely for decriminalizing that for therapeutic purposes.
For that, yeah, I
Therapeutic.
I suffer with my own mental stuff too. So it's
Yeah.
like that is actually
Yeah, I
already
mean,
like that.
I go through depression.
Yeah.
Like we need to talk about mental health
Mhm.
too.
Especially amongst
No,
men,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, look, we actually have that conversation a lot up here.
Really?
Yeah, like we're not scared to touch on those topics. But my other question before we go into that is, how long are you assemblyman for?
So you go every election's 2 years.
Okay.
So every 2 years you would have to run. There's no term limits. Something that I'm against. I
I
am
was-
for
I-
term
I was
limits.
just about to ask you that too.
Yes, I am for term limits. The dude that I'm running against, he's been there for 17 years.
Really?
He's been there for 17 years.
No way.
Michael Benedetto,
17 years?
17 years. 17 years.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Like, if I have to be somewhere for 17 years, either I'm too comfortable
Mhm.
or no one's like, holding me. And so I'm, running against them.
Oh, that's,
Like,
damn, I didn't know 17 years.
yeah, he's 75 years. It's not nothing wrong being 75 years old in office, but 17 years, nah.
Kevin
Bye-bye,
literally, Kevin
Benedetto.
saying that shit yesterday too. That he's like, he feels like there should be term limits to certain
Yeah.
things, or get like younger people in, and or an age limit, an age limit to start it or end it. Like, wait, let's say it's done.
That's
Yeah.
fair. I want to pivot to education.
Yeah.
I'm a teacher, so I teach in a charter school, public charter, Earl Monroe Basketball School. We just first year, but I used to work in a public school. I used to work at Lehman High School, and the difference between resources that I saw between both schools is astounding. And I've always been an advocate for transforming our public schools. I don't even think they need reforming; they need transforming at this point. Like, uproot all of this nonsense that we have that we call public schools and just start from the ground up. But how do we do that? How do we transform our public schools to give our kids the adequate education that they deserve? Like, I feel like kids should be learning a bunch of high-tech skills. Right now, our public schools, in my opinion, are setting up our kids for a life of 1989 or 1995. Like, they're teaching them to be worker bees. They're not teaching them for the job market that is about to be right in front of them. So how do we transform our public education system?
It's definitely a structural issue. It's interesting. We go to school during the fall, September, during harvest time, and then in the summers we have off. And that's a model rooted in like the 1800s. Back in the days, you're in the farm, you need the summers to be able to help out your parents, and then you go to school. That's the model that we live under, right? Under public education system. It's a factory agricultural model that's stuck in, as you mentioned, the 20th century. And that's exactly what our education system is set for. It's set for the test, not for the potential. The education system that we have is teaching for tests and not for potential. And I think one of the things we have to do is think about, and I think about this a lot, how do we transition from an achievement based education, right, to an enrichment based education? What does that mean? That means that there are parts of people's personalities and life that can be enriched if we open up this educational like curiosity. There's something that I feel that our educational system doesn't allow one to be curious. As mentioned, it's very formulaic, it's very structured, it's very test driven, and it's not evolving fast enough to the very fast shifting landscape that we have. As you mentioned, we have all these high tech jobs of the future that are coming and that are here, yet we're still stuck in this old model. I think liberation shouldn't be about control. I mean, education shouldn't be about control. It should be about liberating potential. So how do we do that? Smaller class sizes. Smaller class sizes are so important. Bronx schools are so overcrowded, and it's difficult to be able to have one teacher with 25, 30 students. You know, we have to lower class sizes. During the pandemic, a lot of students lost so much time, and they lost one-on-one connection and learning. To catch up, one of the things I want to propose is universal tutoring, right? We should have free tutoring and universal tutoring one-on-one for every student in order to make up for the gaps that we saw. We have to also account for youth mental health. Youth mental health is so big. Yo, these phones, like once I started averaging 6-7 hours screen time, I could feel my mental health like really like just get worse. Imagine kids that now are engaging with this, with their brains developing, with this technology. Like they're really scrambled, and the pandemic really made it difficult for them. So I would say we have to think about, instead of achievement, enrichment. We have to lower class sizes. We have to focus on more one-on-one connection. We have to be outside of the classroom. Schools look like colorful jails or colorful factories. Schools look like colorful jails, colorful factories. We're in the East Bronx. We got a lot of land. We got the biggest park in the city here, Pelham Bay. Why can't we educate in nature? Why can't we do classes, you know, in all the amazing natural environments that we have? Integrate the outside with the inside. And arts and music, another thing that always gets cut. Mental health is really important, and math ain't gonna do much for mental health, but arts, education, theater, creativity, creators, we need to think about education of creation, not just one of making money, which is important, but those are some of the things I've seen, especially with Marisol, who's 11 years old, and she wants to be curious, and we have the potential to have a transformation, as you mentioned, in the education system.
Yeah, because I feel like right now, like kids aren't learning anything that's going to be valuable to them when they graduate. And it's like I was reading this book called Money Master the Game, and it says that by the year 2040 something, about 47% of the jobs that we know today are going to be gone. Whether that be truck drivers, teachers, any type of service sector is pretty much going to be ran by robots. So we should be learning 3D printing. We should be learning stem cell research. We should be learning learning how to regenerate the body through science. Like that's a real thing. Nanotechnology. Like these are the type of high tech skills that if they can start learning those now, they'll be prepared for when these massive job cuts do happen, because it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. Technology is only advancing. It's getting faster. It's getting better. It's getting more intelligent. But with that being said, where do you stand on the public versus charter debate?
Yeah, it's a debate that as someone that has many family members in charter schools, and many people in public schools, parents have bad choices everywhere. And I'm not in any way, shape, or form going to blame someone because they choose to engage in a charter school and demonize charter schools. No, our public schools are really trash. What I will say is that we need to make sure that our public schools are well funded, because what happens is that we know many charters have enrollment ability to select students that are more higher performing, and we need to have strong public schools for students that have special needs, right? For students that get left behind because of accessibility issues. So we need to have strong public schools for them, and I'm not going to be fighting against charters. We need to have strong public schools, and we need to make sure that the parents that are in charters have access in case their kid has some type of special need, because we do see that usually those kids get funneled into the public school system that's not doing well.
Yeah, and I think that the education system is the most segregated aspect of our society, because like our parents don't have the freedom of choice to really send their kids to adequate schools.
Right.
A lot of our kids now are going, a lot of parents are rushing to charter because they think it's a better alternative to public. right? And that in and of itself is a problem. Like I could even think back to when IS 192, like you would hear so many positive stories of when it was like when my parents probably was going to middle school or grandparents who went there. You heard all these great stories about how it had art and music and they felt like the teachers cared about them. It was all positive. And then there was like a switch where like I feel like the last 2 generations it's just like these schools aren't the same anymore. But nobody can really identify what the issue is. But we just know that the schools today, the public schools today, are not helping the kids the way that they need to.
That's right.
Yeah, I like. We was talking about this the other day too. When we like when we was younger, across the street, we used to have we were playing the recorder. Did you play the recorder when you did it?
Shit, yeah. Recorder.
See, like we did. They gave us
Yeah.
piano. They give us the recorder. They give us like certain things, right? And then now the kids don't got none of that.
No, they don't.
They don't get recorders.
They don't get recorders.
I went a little bit after it, but even I got recorders.
Yeah, like they don't got no. They cut like he said. The first thing they do is cut the music and the arts and all that those programs.
So who benefits from the system being the way it is? Because it's clearly designed this way to benefit somebody, and it's not us. So who is this benefit? Come on.
Definitely not us. It benefits mayoral donors, the donors of the politicians, right? The donors get the big contracts. So what will happen is someone donates X amount of dollars to the mayor, right? And the mayor has control of the schools. What then will happen is that provider provides the really horrible school lunches that we've seen, right? I'm sorry, it's really bad school lunches. But they'll get like a $500 million contract, right? Because they donated money to the mayor. It's as simple as that. That's why I think, one of the things I'm a small dollar funded campaign, meaning that I don't take money from real estate developers, from Wall Street, fossil fuel companies, because those are representation of my values, meaning that when I'm going to pass laws, I'm not thinking about, is this law going to piss off like this big donor? It's like what this law is going to do to help someone. And it's usually money in politics. But it's wild because we've had the Supreme Court created this idea that corporations are people. There's this idea that corporations are people. And there's this theory of the First Amendment, free speech, that corporations can spend unlimited amounts of money on campaigns because their speech is considered the same as the person. What does that mean? That means that right now I have, and it's true, I have Republicans that have sent like $150,000 worth of mail attacking me. So there's like 8 like attack mailers and that are going against me, and it's some billionaire just handing out money through a super PAC when I am only getting $20-$30 donations, because that's how I gotta run. I have around 800 individual donations for this campaign. They're small dollars, they're like $5, $10, $15, but you know what, I'm accountable to the person who $20 means a lot to, which is the people that I'm trying to legislate for, not some billionaire like Trump who gave Benedetto $6,000 and he got $127 million tax credit for this golf course here. I keep saying that because it's such a good representation of how money corrupts politics, because money corrupts everything, or the love of it. So that's what I think is who's benefiting from the system. The big corporations, I mean, pharma, look how much pharma has benefited during this pandemic. Big pharma, these companies that get these exemptions, and we saw so much money go through. Remember during the pandemic, all the PPE, all the masks,
stock market,
all the stuff,
all the money printed off.
It's the biggest theft.
Nah, that shit was crazy.
With Trump on the president,
that shit was.
He gave all this money to these people, like. So that's what happens. People get mad. Like, of course you should be mad. Like, it's a huge problem.
Well, let me introduce you to this Emmanuel. This is John.
Emmanuel,
Nice.
what's going on?
Nice to meet you.
Likewise.
Friend of the show. Always part of the show.
Yeah.
It's official. I have you here. Do you have any questions you want to ask for?
No, I didn't really listen too much because I got a call while I was over here. I was listening, but then the call interrupted things. But No, yeah, I wanted to pull up just to listen. Yeah, I know I like just politics.
Yeah.
I'm a Trumper, by the way, so
Okay.
yeah. I just throw that out there. But regardless, I just like listening to politics. Any side, and I do have political ambitions myself, maybe in the near future. Not near future, but in the future. So it's just good to. I just want to listen.
Absolutely.
Someone who already going through it.
Yeah. And we need more dialogue, right?
Mhm.
I mean, I think that's one of the things we're missing is people are not having conversations.
100%.
And one of the things I'm saying is that I want to transition from we're in a fear-based society. Fear is about reaction. If you think about emotion that makes you just react without any thinking, it's fear. And we got a lot of fear that's getting pumped into our system. So all we do is react to stuff instead of being proactive, which is different type of emotion. It's an emotion of care. It's an emotion of paying attention to our needs. And my position is, listen, we need to move from a fear-based to a care-based culture in society because we got too much fear pumped into our system and people are worried, rightfully so. But yeah, it's something I'm excited, and I'm excited to hear about like your perspectives around like what is it about the system that you feel not only that's not working, but like should we just forget about politics? Should we just like think about business or culture as a way to like express our potential because politics is so broken, and that's what I'm hearing more and more.
Anybody want to?
I have this like it's very radical thinking. 100%. I'll definitely acknowledge that before I throw out this statement. But I have just I'm just observing society, observing how things going, observing how broken politics is on both sides of the aisle. Doesn't matter. Just like they kind of lost the people to the point that I feel like politics themselves won't get back to what they were originally, created for. Like, just government in general won't get back to what it's originally created for. And so it's like Civil War, like something like that. Like, you feel me? Like the people just gonna get tired. The normal people, not even like far left or far right, just the ones just in between, just trying to live their lives, bro. Like those, they're and society's already been past getting to that point. It's normal people are just like pretty much getting their backs put against the wall at this point. Yeah. And it's just like, yeah, we can go the whole route of, all right, so let us try to get in there. But then like you was talking about money and things like that, it's not easy. That's something I acknowledge. Like I would love to have political ambitions, bro, but I know like a lot of that shit ain't easy, especially when you're dealing with people who when it comes to the political game, that shit is like pretty much like family ran to a certain degree, like bloodlines type shit, like get filtered through this thing. So it's like to kind of look at you diving in and attack and diving into that atmosphere when you just how in a sense how it should have been just a regular person who could run for office, but you're going against an establishment of people who just do this for their family, not even for their lives, like for their families. Their families have done it. They dad, their grandfather, like they do this, and that's what you got to go against. So that's how I look at it. Like I really, it's just I have hope, but it's like it's really hard to just kind of sit there and look at the just whole political landscape and think like, oh, this is just gonna get better through getting the right people in office.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's the right people in office won't address the broken system, and I think we are seeing this system. We live in representational democracy or represent a republic. We get represented. We don't have direct democracy, right? Like even though we may have the technology to have direct bureaucracy, we still do representational politics, and I think that's like a second millennium, thing. We're the third millennium, and we're still having us being represented by an intermediary. And I think that's one of the things that we're evolving out of. We need more direct democracy. If you think about the beginning of politics, when all the Greco-Roman, the Greek folks talked about democracy, their idea was like, everybody gets a vote to be able to participate in society. And we have some programs like that. For example, I want to see the expansion of participatory budgeting. What's that? Participatory budgeting means that elected official will take $1 million and will go to the community and be like, all right, like propose 5 projects, and then the community is able to vote on which one of those 5 projects actually gets funded. I would love to see the entire budget be participatory. You know what I'm saying? Like there should be a system where I could go to my phone and like vote,
That makes
like,
sense.
you know, and we're still being represented. And I think with technology, and that's what we were talking about, our own platforms, technology has allowed it so that your potential doesn't have to be represented through someone anymore. If you really think about it, that's what technology is. It's like an extension of your senses. It's an extension of your power. But we have a political system that says you must be represented by someone with money, by someone with connections, and by someone that knows better than you. I'm saying like, nah, that's all like smoke and mirrors. You know, that's all. There's someone behind the curtain, you know, manipulating society, and it's really like that. And they're like unimpressive. These folks don't know what the hell they're doing. It's like, yo, get out of the way. But yeah, I think I don't think the system can be reformed. It needs to be transformed, and that's where people get scared, right? Because transformation means a lot of different things for a lot of different people. And that's what I'm trying to say is like, no, you know, I'm a public school parent. I got 11-year-old at home. My transformation is rooted in care, you know. But someone will say like, oh, you scary. You trying to like, you know, defund the police. You're trying to abolish this. You're trying to do that. And it's really nonsense, you know. So for example, defund, that comes out a lot. You know, I'm like, I never said defund. I'm saying real common sense fiscal responsibility. We divest in things that don't work and we invest in things that do work, right? So if I see that a specific thing in the budget doesn't work, it's okay to transition. And I talk about this when it comes to like, we have more cops in our schools than we have mental health counselors. That's one thing. When in Marisol school, my daughter's school, most of the threats and there's shootings happening there are from teenagers that have deep mental health issues, but also lack of accountability as well. Right. So I have a different approach. I'm like, yo, let's maybe try to find more mental health counseling and let's try to make it a bit more even. And someone will say, oh, you're a radical socialist because you propose that. I want to turn down the heat and say, let's try things. And if it doesn't work, and as mentioned, my parents were ministers, and there's a Bible verse that says, you take what is good and you set aside what doesn't work. It's very simple. And that's the type of governing that I think we're trying to do. But it's hard because people don't want to hear that. People just want to fight. And it's fine. We're in fighting times.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of shit going down.
The founder fathers did not want a 2-party system, right? They felt like a 2-party system would be detrimental to the people because you would feel like you have to pick a side, right? So the 2 dominant sides in our society is Republican and Democrat, clearly. So do you think it's necessary that we educate our society about other options that are outside those 2 parties?
Absolutely. I think the 2-party system allows for the elite to have the 2 people fighting distracting so they could just keep the real power. So for example, I'm running also on what's called the Working Families Party. So that's like a third party here in New York State. There's this law that's called fusion voting, which allows for many parties to also exist. So I'm running on that other line. I'm really inspired. As mentioned, I'm from Puerto Rico. In Puerto Rico, there's a revolution in their politics happening right now. There were 2 parties, and now they're splitting because of the crisis. And I would love to see that here. It's tough because the 2-party system is really embedded and it's really like connected to our system. But I think things are gonna get pretty wild and intense. And there's gonna be a breaking point. And I think that we should be thinking about how to have additional parties. I'm running against a Democrat. I think, as mentioned before, the Democrats have been trash in many ways. So I'm an insurgent running against a Democrat because I think that the Democrat has not represented working people, just pays lip service, tokenizes everybody in order to distract you. And, we don't need that type of representation. So that's why I'm running against a Democrat as a Democrat.
And I think even with that right there, like I feel like change starts with communication and education, right? And those two things, what you're doing right now, like going against a Democrat, like being within that party, you're showing that there could be other ways to tackle the system. You could be in the party making change, or you could even be outside the party. Like I know the Libertarian Party is rising, and it's rising at a pretty fast rate. So I think once people get more educated about it, then they'll be able to make different decisions. And I think, we keep fighting the fight, we'll see a third party rise and the fourth party rise, and I think it'll continue to grow. Like I don't lose hope around the fact that we're so embedded in the two-party system now. I think things have changed, especially with Generation Z, because they don't really care about anything. Like they're open, they're really open-minded. So I think the future's pretty bright.
Yeah, I'm hoping, and I think that's what I'm inspired by, what the conversations you're having, the conversations like everyone's having, and we have to have that dialogue. We have to share these ideas, which is why I believe that it's important to speak about this, and not try to shy away from these topics. So, kudos to y'all for really like diving deep.
I want to trade. Well, do you have time? Or?
Yeah, I got a couple. I got 10 more minutes.
All right, cool.
This is good.
Yeah, that's
Whatever,
fine.
whatever.
As long as you want to stay,
you don't gotta leave.
Yeah, you don't gotta leave.
Yeah, I gotta be at a polling site tomorrow at 6 a.m. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a big day for you.
Hey, tomorrow's a big
Where
day.
is the site at?
Well, we got Co-op City is where we get most votes. So I'll be at Co-op City in the morning. But again, there's like City Island, Pelham Bay. Each community has like 4 or 5 polling sites. The turnout is gonna be really low though. Because they split the election. So there's another election in August too.
Yeah.
So there's 2 sets of elections because the judges are doing whatever. Oh, that's a huge problem now. Judges are doing whatever they want. I mean, some people like it, but as we could see, the system is really getting destabilized. So there was a judge that just changed the primary and changed what's called the redistricting, because every 10 years, when they do the census, what happens is that once they do the census, there was a decrease in the population. So they had to cut up all the lines differently.
It wasn't a decrease in the population, just people just didn't do that shit.
They're not, that's it.
Honestly, that's really what it is.
That's the truth. Like,
People
no,
just know what they look at it as like tracking, which is like census is important, but at the end of the day, it is tracking. So
I'm not filling this shit out. Like, that's just be honest.
I mean, but it is important, like for your area and shit like that, in terms of like.
But they don't know that.
Yeah.
They're not even gonna think of it like that. It's just like I'm not. Why am I gonna tell them how many people I live in my crib right now? Like, my fault. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, but the tracking though, that's another thing I'm very concerned about. Surveillance. Like everything about surveillance, and we talk about artificial intelligence. We're gonna have general intelligence emerge within the next 10, 15 years. So what's going to happen is that our creation, if we don't regulate it, is going to dominate us. And I know a lot of people think that sci-fi stuff. Nah,
they already reproducing.
Yep.
Yeah, we just gotta. Once the robots come, we just gotta throw water on them. Burn their circuits. That's it.
Yo, it's what happens. It's funny. Some people say that like the robot, the aliens are actually from inside of us. It's the internet, and artificial intelligence is the alien. That's what like
conspiracy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
This is what we do on Mondays.
A lot of sci-fi focused.
Yeah.
Good. I hit the nice theme. It's true though. I was hearing something about that the other day. I was like, yo, everybody thought the aliens were gonna come from outside. Nah, they're coming from inside. It's artificial intelligence. It's an invisible alien. Hey. I didn't know I'd be talking about aliens here.
Oh, yeah. We'll go a different way right now if you let us. What you got to say about that?
I was just thinking about aliens.
But you saw Congress did a UFO study. Congress just opened up studies
Yeah, they
for the
did that.
UFO.
They was CIA was declassifying shit during the pandemic.
Yeah,
so
that was crazy.
I don't believe them.
Think you did it on purpose?
I don't believe them.
kind
Yeah,
of- What's
I
the
don't
word?
believe
Distraction.
Yeah, distraction.
Yeah.
I don't believe them. I really feel like if they are aliens, they're just like we wouldn't know because they're probably like shape shifting and they can shape shift into humans type shit.
Oh, they look like us.
Because yeah, I mean, like people be calling them lizard people, like Mark Zuckerberg, but like I feel like that just aliens, bro. Why not?
It's wild. There's nothing impossible in this world now. I think after the pandemic, everybody's just seeing going haywire. So that's my concern. That if we don't, again, trying to be like for real, like we need to make sure New York State is protected because I don't know what's happening with the federal government. You know, I think that the federal government is probably going to lose control, and the states are going to start going at each other. You know, someone says that the next civil war is not north and south; it's rural versus urban.
Oh yeah,
It's like upstate,
I
downstate.
feel like balkanization is definitely probably gonna happen like in my lifetime, or at least an attempt at it, like splitting the country. I honestly believe that's just gonna happen like in my lifetime.
That's crazy.
I got
People
two
like
questions.
people's
Go ahead.
views are just
That's
people
what
clash
I
too
heard.
much nowadays, bro.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not even like meaningful clashing or like thoughtful or logical clashing. It's just barbaric in a sense. Like, so it's like I'm pretty sure like that like topics and shit that we just go crazy over in America, like other countries probably just civilized as hell about these shits. Like it's not even something that don't raise voices or nothing, but we just yell
But, like
violence,
people
all
too
that shit.
loud. Like this is like
Cancel.
Yeah,
cancel culture.
yeah. So it's just like, bro, it's gonna get like I really could see that happening because it's like at a certain point, one group is gonna be like, all right, we tired of this shit, and the other group is gonna be like, well, we tired of your shit, and then everybody who just has these kind of set principles is just going go move where they live. Like I honestly could see that happening,
That's crazy.
and it would definitely be like rural versus urban because there's definitely a difference in mentalities when it comes to that. Because I've lived in rural areas, like talking about like you could drive through the whole town in 5 minutes, and I've obviously lived in New York City majority of my life, so it's like it's very different in mentality.
The Supreme Court has been really busy these last 2 or 3 weeks. I'm thinking we're hearing more from the Supreme Court in the last 3 weeks than we probably heard in the last 5 years.
I ain't going cat, bro. I heard more from them than Kamala. I done heard more from the Supreme Court than Kamala, bro. I forgot. Ooh, boy. Hey, bro.
Oh man. With that being said, we just saw the Supreme Court pass the gun law. So where do you stand on the Second Amendment, and how do you feel about the law that just passed?
Yeah, it's very interesting, right? Like, first of all, the Second Amendment was initially put together in order for us to protect ourselves from the government. I think people forget that the Second Amendment is really for you to stop the government.
I like
it's not
that.
necessarily to like
I like
kill
that you said that.
your neighbor or
like that
like
you said
protect,
that.
but it really is.
No, I like that you said that because a lot of people don't realize that. Like when people bring up the question, what do you need an AR for? Well, literally that reason right there, because I'm not gonna go fight the government with my 9mm pistol. Like,
So it's interesting. I will say that I am even though I do get that my position is that we're going to be with lots of weapons. There's more guns here than I think more guns than people in the United States. I definitely am for gun control, but I do understand why people are saying I don't want the government to take away my guns because the government's walling out. And I think what we're going to see is a system, as we're seeing with abortion, where the federal government is just going to like step back from everything and it's going to be wild, wild west. And every state is going to make their own laws, and every state is going to be like a country in itself. I think that it's going to be interesting to see how these things develop. But yeah, the Second Amendment is supposed to be to protect ourselves from the government. It's very clear. That's the case. I will say though that there was a shooting by my daughter's school recently, and sometimes kids bring in weapons, and it's really concerning to me. And I go back to the fear-based culture. We're really in this America cowboy, like let's go and expand our potential through force. And that's embedded in our culture. And I think that's part of the American psyche and the American culture. And I definitely want to shift away from that. But I do understand why people feel concerned and want to have weapons. And, I'm not advocating for that, but it's going to be really interesting couple of, I think, months here. What they're saying is they're going to try to make New York City into like a gun-free zone, but the Supreme Court's going to knock that down. So it's going to be Wild Wild West. It feels like.
Yeah, they probably want to try to make New York City a gun-free zone, because the thing about New York City is that like they classify pretty much like every area in New York City like pretty much gun-free space because of the amount of people. Like they classify certain areas where you can have it and when you can't, but majority of New York City, because of the amount of traffic like in these places, like everywhere is pretty much like a gun-free zone, which doesn't quite make sense, because it's like, well, where do you think things are gonna happen?
I would just read the sign and walk away.
Yeah. Like, oh shit, gun-free zone. Hold on, gotta go down the block. Shit,
That's what we were hoping for.
dang, I was watching him too from the ATM. Fuck.
Gun-free zone.
Nah, but yeah, me personally, I think it's a good thing. I'm 28. Shit, guns been illegal in New York my whole life, and it ain't stop shit, in my opinion. And I know a lot of people out there. Like, I'm one of the people. I like guns. I like shooting. I like learning about guns, cleaning it, all of that. I like the safety behind
Well,
it.
he's in the military also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I like them. I know a lot of people, they appreciate them for its two-way, and they appreciate them for the safety that it brings to them. However, a lot of people there's a bunch of gun owners that be like, I would love to not even have this shit. Like, you get it? So I definitely could see where it's gonna be like conflicting for a lot of people, because especially like realistically, do the city need more guns? Not really, but at the same time, it's like, if it's in the hands of people who ain't gonna do stupid shit, because the people are already out here with guns doing stupid shit. Like for example, me, I didn't have a gun 28 years of my life in New York City. If I get one now, I ain't gonna just shoot a nigga. Like, that's how I look at it. But who knows if that would be everybody else's mindset who doesn't know gun safety and things of
Yeah,
that
there would
nature.
have to be a lot of safety courses and stuff like that now.
And that's the thing, right? Like the inability to get background checks, the mental health screenings, again, these are things that I think both sides could agree on. Like, there's just some common sense steps that we can take. And we just have to have these conversations and move towards them, because, as mentioned, everybody during this pandemic has been scrambled. I mean, we're under the state of mass psychosis, because of the pandemic. It really is. There's been a
Joe
mass.
Rogan podcast.
Oh, I mean, I listen to everything. I listen to everything.
Robert Malone said that.
Yeah. And there's a lot of Jungian psychology. Speaks about mass psychosis, and like, I do believe that we're all connected through our unconscious, and that we share a shared psychology. And when we don't pay attention to these energies, we become like zombies. That's the thing. A part of that mass psychosis idea and the zombie like image or narrative that comes time and time again is that, like,
That's 100%
zombies.
correct,
Zombies started coming up in culture like after the 60s or 70s. It was like a recent phenomenon, and it's supposed to express the way that our like mental health has deteriorated such a point because of modernity, that people no longer have any individual like agency, and they just are a mob that reacts. And that's like you.
That's
I'm sure-
100% facts. You could just look at society today and meet the same person, literally same person, ideology, all of that. It's like, wait, sure, I just met you. I met 5 of you last week. Like, but like it's really.
Yeah.
I call it the NPCs. Like
Yeah,
video games,
yeah,
you know, the
yeah.
characters in the video games that
Yes.
just got one set of dialogue and can't branch out of that dialogue.
Oh,
I mean, I think that's
Yeah.
because uniqueness isn't celebrated anymore. Like,
Mhm.
when was the last time we celebrated somebody for being unique and being different? We always celebrate.
They get
people-
clowned.
Yeah, like we celebrate the people who do the same thing just at an extraordinary level. We don't celebrate uniqueness anymore. Not in art, not in music, not in politics. Like maybe Trump was like maybe the last person who was kind of like different and shook things up. But other than that, we don't celebrate uniqueness.
I mean, but even
Not
then,
in our
uniqueness gets torn down. Like Trump, Kanye,
Yeah,
people
man.
who have unique mindsets or unique ways of thinking. Candace Owens, like someone who's just like kind of different outside of the, their group. Yeah, uniqueness gets toward them, bro. That's why everybody just thinks the same. But thinking the same, that shit's boring, bro. I'm tired of having the same conversations with people.
Yeah, we're stuck in the algorithm.
that's exactly what it is. We're in an algorithm, and I appreciate this conversation is unique, right? I come from a certain side of the political spectrum.
Mhm.
You all come from another, but we need to have these conversations, and I'm excited about what you're doing here, and the fact that you're having these like head on, and again to folks who are listening, because I am getting up at 5:30 in the morning, so I'm about to dip in a second. But if you live in the neighborhoods of Co-op City,
Well, matter of fact,
Throgs
look at
Neck,
that camera right there.
right over there.
Yep.
If you live in the neighborhoods of Co-op City, Throgs Neck, Pelham Bay, Westchester Square, again, I'm organizing for whole communities and safe streets, because our streets can't be safe if we don't have wholeness, if we don't have opportunities to express our individual creativity. I do believe, for me, I'm a PK, so my parents were ministers, and the Bible, there's a verse that I really like. Is Ecclesiastes 3:11. It says, God has made everything beautiful in its time and has set eternity upon the hearts of all people, but people don't know the work of God from beginning to end. And I think that's the thing. We've been endowed by a unique, creative, like really powerful and divine potential. And we could all express it with our individuality, but society is conforming, it's structuring us in specific ways. We become like literal NPCs, and we have this programming that, and I say this all the time, and Kanye said it, back in the old Kanye, they make you hate yourself and love their wealth, right? Like that's really, I think, such an important thing. They make you hate yourself and love their power, hate yourself and love their potential. And I think that we have to see ourselves reflected from the systems that are supposed to empower us. And if I don't see myself reflected, is because that system doesn't serve me. And I'm excited to see this. I'm definitely encourage y'all to continue doing this so that your perspectives get shared. And it's really amazing that you're having these conversations here. Because not everybody wants to talk about local politics. I was like, yeah, fuck that. I don't want to talk about like assembly members. But it matters. And I appreciate the opportunity to be able to share.
Appreciate
Yeah,
that.
appreciate you for
Ladies
coming.
and gentlemen, Jonathan Soto,
Hey.
New York State Assemblyman. We're
Vote.
gonna announce it tomorrow.
Vote tomorrow. Check it out, and appreciate you all. And I'm gonna bounce.
Yes.
But
Man,
appreciate you.
Yeah, we're gonna we're gonna
cool.
play some music. Put one of Rick's videos on real quick so that
I'm gonna play his
we're gonna take a good 5-minute break. We'll be right back.
Oh, where?
What you about to do? Play again?
Oh, I got a portable dab rig, bro.
Hey.
Okay.
I counted in North Carolina. No, yeah.
Wait,
Yeah. No, yeah. I was just showing you what it is.
Oh.
Yeah. I haven't, since I
Quiet is rare in the city. Even early, before the city wakes up, the noise is hard to escape.
The school staff and Bible step teachers, are they seen it all?
Are my children safe? Am I working hard enough? Am I a good parent? Are we going to be okay? The secret is to find control, even if it's only your own breath. The East Bronx is wedged between the city and the river, so we're always one big storm away from a devastating flood. Both Albany and City Hall fight for contracts that control our parks, neighborhoods, and schools. The mayor's office has controlled the schools since Bloomberg. Now they're proposing 6-day school weeks, longer hours, bigger class sizes, more standardized testing, and fewer choices. The law for mayoral control expires this year. I'm Jonathan Soto, and I'm going to Albany to bring our schools back to us, the people who know our kids the best. I grew up in New York and in El Pueblo de Aguada, a small town on the west coast of Puerto Rico. My parents were ministers, inspired by Jesus the carpenter, Jesus the worker. So when I returned to New York, I organized with people of faith to help workers and the vulnerable. I was appointed by the mayor to represent the voice of the faithful at City Hall. And so I know our government can be guided by love and led by people who love their neighborhoods, neighbors, and their children, not by some politician who just shows up during election time. That's why community control is so important right now. We lost so much during the pandemic. People are anxious, the city is noisier, and the questions are louder. But we can still breathe, pray, and organize. And if we don't organize ourselves, then others will do it for us. We need a clear plan and priorities made by us and for us before we lose anything else. I'm Jonathan Soto, and I'm running for state assembly to represent you, us, now.
Sí, y no confías a mí. Tus hondos pensamientos. Si vos sabes que yo.
Smoking weed till I pass out. Bad bitch with her ass out. Getting money to the cash flow. Big guns when I back out. 10 bricks in the stash house. Low money when I laugh out. This big drip when the gang out. Your daddy bring that range up. Trap house in the lobbies. Nigga, that's where I hang out. Catch me in the color bottle, popping when the gang out. Bouncing up and down, throwing ones with my chain out. Rolling dice, 4 5 6. I bring that bank out. Head crack, 0 trips. Nigga, you just aced out. Triple beam, quarter brick. Nigga, it just wait out. Grind hard, GG. Show you what that game out. Big guns, big buns. Every time we stake out. Bag them, then we go. What? Nigga, that's a takeout. Fried rice, low made, cook them to a whole thing. Pop ups, drop-bys, nigga, that's your whole thing. Fuck going on.
You know what that shit is, nigga. Put the chrome to your dome, but you bout that. You be dapping and conversing with a known rat. We don't condone that. 4/5 a whole lot. Skim and go left, then it's back to flipping loud packs. I be in the trenches with a baddie too. Ass fat, I might slap her like she scored the hoop. Man, we don't pick and choose. Shot hitting you and you. Right me, nigga, Barbie, even though we probably went to school. Man, I'ma show these little niggas how to get it right. Man, you gon' show these little niggas how to lose their life. It's still free, my brothers doing 30 to the life. First smell I get, tell a lawyer, get that shit right. I call Rick and told him, bro, I got a good leg. You call Cap like, Dottie got another head. And he's sweet, man. We don't even need the grips. We don't need the clips. All we gotta do is press the whip. Easy, nigga.
Oh, you dumb. Fuck going on. Niggas is spooked out, man. Sturdy or flirty. 40.
Yeah, disrespect niggas respectfully. Bullets hit niggas in they mind like telepathy.
Trap misconnected, he was playing with the recipe. Call for the tech like the nigga was the referee.
If you don't want smoke, my nigga, then just let it be. I could give a felony, fuck these niggas telling me.
All these different weeds, what the fuck these niggas selling me? You ain't got the fronts, my nigga, you selling fronts.
What the fuck is in your blunt? 40 kicking like a punt. Fucking with the captain, little niggas getting crunched.
You know my 6'4s get it started. So nigga beg your pardon, wanna play a game, I blow the cartridge.
Snapping like I'm Carlton, broke trappers trying to bargain. Gotta kill witnesses, bed hanging like I'm Harden.
Had 1,000 pints, so a nigga sold 1,000 lines. Early in the morning, I spin his block 1,000 times. Fuck going on? Bitch, 40, yo Rick, yo Cat, niggas is bugging, nigga. Yo Doc, fuck going on, nigga. Jeez, are you dumb?
This is a melody.
Baby, welcome to the 40. I'm in the Mazda, the Wraith, the Beam. I be sliding with your shorty. Baby, welcome to the 40. Just know I'm gon' slide if they ever try to extort me. Baby, welcome to the 40. Bitch, I'm a trend, not a crip. Put one in your head and empty the clip. No fire trucks, but there's ladders and whips. Craig Pops, you just lifting some shit. 48 the block, Doobie the strip. Always packing like I'm taking a trip. DOA for the BOA. Go to Chevy, whatever, my nigga is lit. I can handle any issue. From the trigger to the wrist moves. She keep texting me, I miss you. But I fell in love with my pistol. The cops catch you, better lower your tone. If you talk, you're not making it home. Bought a brick and I did it alone. Dropping the water, I'm making it clone. When I'm sliding till I make way. I'm from a block where it ain't safe. Minutes a trap like I'm TQ. I'm just pushing out some great eights. I take a loss, but it never hurts. Your phone ring only on the first. This trap shit, you can't force it. I can show you how the water works. Baby, welcome to the 40. I'm in the Mazda, the Wraith, the Beam. I be sliding with your shorty. Baby, welcome to the 40. Just know I'm gon' slide if they ever try to extort me. Baby, welcome to the 40.
Baby, welcome to the 40. Rebel Lenties in the Marys, I can't get her off me. She wanna fucking Dior me. Pull out the bench, she forget every nigga before me. Shooters is pulling up shortly. Slide on the odds, but I can't let the cameras record me. I'm trying to get the hoes off me. Last bitch, she was trying to find love and she lost me. I left her right on the 40. Right with the G's, the blazes, the A's. Like, make sure this bitch never call me. Just make sure this bitch never call me. Baby, welcome to the 40. I got the Mazzy, the Benz, the Beamer. They know I ain't lying, they saw me. You know I ain't lying, they saw me. I'm wearing the bands, not a cake. Put it right on her place, baby. Let me ball your face. I'm with the scammers doing drills in the rave. Wait. Early with me, I ain't playing it safe. Pocket rocket, send a nigga to space. I pack, turn a nigga to shake. Wait, I had your bitch. Same night, I forget her. Same night, you was with her, caught brain twice. She ain't think twice on that nigga. Late nights, I'm with killer. Don't square up, cause he hate fights, he a driller. Regulars people, he'll be finito. 40, bang twice at a nigga.
Baby, welcome to the 40. I got grams, go for 40. Watch the kid get rich. We got bricks like Tory. Niggas talking like they know your body. Nah, nigga, I don't know nobody. Unidentified, got his mama looking at him like, I don't even know this body. Throw a bullet, catch an ento. Shoot behind the scenes with extendos. Might pass a stick to bimbo. Make an op play limbo. Welcome to the party, get your pop smoke. I stay on point, niggas not low. Your homebody is a known thotty. She a broke bitch, she ain't got dough. One way in, niggas don't get a pass. Niggas thinking that they safe on the ave. Nigga, what's in my pocket, your stash? Duke say, hit books for the gas. Get the hookah, turn the block in indictment with 40 niggas. What's with all the excitement? 40 on me and I'm too fleet. I let it off like fuck all the fighting. Margello on a Monday. Smiles tell me what the bitch want. St. Laurent off the runway. Not now, maybe one day. 40 forever, I'm back on my shit. Getting lit, nigga right on the strip. Bitch speak when you see me with piff. 10 in the pocket, 5 on the fifth.
Baby, welcome to the 40. I'm in the Mazda, the Wraith, the Beam. I be sliding with your shorty. Baby, welcome to the 40. Just know I'm gon' slide if they ever try to extort me. Baby, welcome to the 40.